You are listening to the Booktrospective Podcast, a podcast for all types of books. And even though we read all types of books across all different types of genres, we want to give a disclaimer. Many of our books and a lot of our content sometimes is intended for mature audiences. And we don't believe in censorship, but we do want our listeners to have the opportunity to decide if our episode or podcast is good for them. So with that, let's get into the episode. Hey, it's Dominique.
And Keely.
And you are listening to Booktrospective. And this is a midweek, not in the normal schedule episode because we are dropping an author interview today with the author Julie Berry, whose book we are going to be reviewing next week, I believe.
Yes.
Okay. So just quick information about her, and then it'll jump right into the interview. It's actually a nice length of an interview, so She was really great to talk to. But Julie is from New York and currently resides in New York again. She actually owns a bookstore called The Author's Note, which is super cute.
Yes.
And she said that's because that's what she's known for, is really long or detailed author's notes in books. She's the youngest of 7. I'm just pulling Wikipedia facts. Lots of information. She has been married to her husband Phil since 1995, who she made sound like was the sweetest, most charming man that ever existed. So he actually for what she said, built her entire bookstore basically, or refurbished it. So yeah, she won. They have 4 sons together. They actually moved away from New York. She lived in other states and then moved back home when the bookstore opportunity came to her. Let's see. It looks like she was first published in 2009, and she kind of does the historical fiction genre. Is that kind of her jam,
Yeah.
So we interviewed her, and then we will be reviewing If Looks Could Kill next week. So check out this interview with Julie Berry.
Alrighty. So we'll do a quick little intro so you know who we are. I'm Keely, a co-host, obviously, of the podcast, Booktrospective. I also own a indie bookstore called Ink Drinkers Anonymous in downtown Muncie. I saw that you own a bookstore too. I've been checking out your socials.
Okay, where's your store? Downtown where?
Muncie, Indiana.
Oh, Muncie. Okay, what's the movie that talks about Muncie? Hudsucker Proxy. Have you ever seen that movie?
No.
It's a really funny Coen Brothers film, and they make a big to-do about Muncie. I'm from Muncie. So anyway. So, sorry. But I'm delighted that you own a bookstore, and I will try not to just talk about that the whole time because, of course,
Oh, could go on and on all day.
And I don't know how you find time to run a podcast and a bookstore, so I'm inspired and impressed.
I keep myself busy. So does Dominique. She does a lot too.
I'm Dominique. Can you hear me okay? I'm just
I hear you.
Okay.
Yeah. I hear you.
Well, I'm Dominique. I don't own a bookstore. I just am friends with Keely, and I like to read, and so we do the podcast together.
Love it. It's great.
So we will kind of just get into things. We'll probably bring up your bookstore later, so because love it. But I just wanted to thank you for joining us today to talk about your newest book, If Looks Could Kill. You are our first traditionally published author that we've interviewed on the podcast, so we're super excited to have you on.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah. So, Dominique, do you want to take the first one?
So, just starting out pretty basic, can you just generally tell us about your book? What would you want people to know that this book is about?
Sure. So, If Looks Could Kill is a combination historical novel with a mythical fantasy twist and a true crime aspect. So it is Medusa versus Jack the Ripper. and it is wild. And I have had such a great time writing this book. At its heart, it's a story about sisterhood, about women, young women bonding together to confront a culture that normalizes and protects violence against women. It's about women finding strength in working together, in helping each other, supporting survivors, and empowering women to stare down the violence that is so commonly part of their lives. It's set in New York City, largely in New York City in 1888, which was the year that Jack the Ripper committed his murders. And I love these characters so much. I probably can't say I love Jack so much, but as a character, he's a very interesting character. And I've just had a wonderful time researching and writing this book. And it has allowed me to really explore the anger I feel about the world that we live in that makes it perfectly fine to use women's bodies and hurt them and go on your merry way. And so, in a way, for me, If Looks Could Kill was my attempt to answer the question, what would happen if women had the power to physically retaliate against those that hurt them? What would they do with that power? How would they use it? And so Medusa's always been a sort of avatar for survivors. And it was really fun and kind of natural to turn her into the carrier of that anger and that desire to stare down the attackers. So I can't make my answer short because I just love this book and I want to talk about it.
No, that's okay. So something that Dominique and I like to do, which it can be difficult if you're not like prepared for the question. So totally understand if you need a minute to think about it. But if you could describe If Looks Could Kill in one word, what would that word be?
It's fierce.
Fierce. I like that. I like that a lot. So I love hearing how stories began. Can you tell us what sparked the idea for this story and putting Jack the Ripper and Medusa together?
You mean that's not obvious? Well, I like to say Medusa versus Jack the Ripper is not an odd combination. It's a vital part of the canon that we've been missing. So, how it all began. I'd written Lovely War, which came out in 2019, and that was a book set during World War I, two love stories set during World War I, as told to us by Greek gods in a Manhattan hotel room during World War II. And that book was a lot of fun. It was, obviously writing about war and about segregation and about racism and violence in World War I. No, it's not exactly a light read, but there was something, romantic, and the god's perspective was fun. It was kind of a joyful experience overall. And so when it came time to write my next book, I tried a lot of different things. I actually wrote another novel in between these two, and that one I set aside to kind of let it marinate a little bit more. I decided I didn't want to leave the gods behind. I didn't want to leave Greek mythology behind, but I did want to leave the gods behind. And I thought, what about the monsters? And so I kind of studied different female monsters in the Greek tradition. And Medusa, leapt out to me, as she does for so many of us, because she's such a timeless symbol, and she just resonates still. And so I decided I wanted to write a Medusa novel, and I actually started by writing several chapters and scenes set during ancient Greek antiquity, like kind of around the time of Medusa's origin story, including how she began, how Athena created her as a gorgon after she was, depending on how you look at it, assaulted or seduced by Poseidon in Athena's temple, all the way leading up to her murder. by Perseus. So I started writing a bunch of that stuff, and it was good. It was fine, but we weren't there yet. And a friend suggested that I started thinking about another time period, about putting a Medusa in another place and time. And a friend of mine, Nancy Werlin, who's also a YA novelist, said, "What about the Victorian era? Like you kind of like that place and time." And I thought, oh, she's right. I do, and I could see it. I could get that vibe of like Medusa in the dark, smoky streets of London. But I thought, I think I'm going to put this in New York, but during that time period. So I settled on the Bowery, which was a neighborhood of Manhattan's Lower East Side where there were tremendous congestion, huge numbers of immigrants crowding into the city, kind of like 24 people to a single room, just in crazy conditions, in extensive poverty. I thought this would be interesting. And so I have my place, and I have my Medusa, I have my time, but there's still something missing. And so for me, writing is always kind of exploratory like that. Like just kind of start with a thought and follow that thread and see what other threads intersect. So one of the problems I realized as I'm researching about, Lower East Side and the Progressive era and, Ellis Island and all of that, stuff that was going on. As I'm thinking about this and I'm thinking about Medusa, I realized that I wanted Medusa to take down the bad guys. I wanted that feminine revenge energy. I really, really wanted it. That was important to me in the story. I was not interested in a story about Medusa and beauty. I was interested in payback. And that's what was calling to me. But I also found that I had to really confront my views about justice and about what is appropriate payback and how do we administer justice and what is the right response even to violence and crime. How do we give how do we deliver justice for those who've been wronged and still be just to those who did it? Where does mercy enter in? And these are really, really big questions. And so I realized that I wasn't going to write a book where we just went around like massacring your garden variety bad guys. That's just not going to happen. That's not how I see the world. But I still wanted that female revenge. I wanted it so badly. And I realized the answer was right there all along. Medusa petrifies her victims. Well, we have two definitions of petrify, right? And I thought, if women had this physical power, how would they use it? Would they end lives? Or would they use more psychological means to petrify? And so I'm thinking along these lines, but I felt like I still need a villain worthy of the rage and the wrath that this story is about. And I knew it couldn't be someone ordinary. And so I'm thinking these thoughts and I'm reading a book about the Bowery. And it happened to mention just famous personalities that had passed through the area at different periods in time, like Harry Houdini and Irving Berlin and Lady Gaga and the Ramones. And it said one of them may have been Jack the Ripper. And I was like, you're kidding me, right? Like, what? And it turns out that a credible suspect in the Ripper investigations left London after the fifth murder, dogged by Scotland Yard detectives, and ended up holed up in the Bowery with like these detectives stationed outside his door watching for him to leave. They didn't have enough evidence to charge him or extradite him, but he was very much a person of interest that they wanted to watch. And so when I realized that, I just thought, hot dog, we're there. Like this is exactly the kind of perp I need for the story I want to tell. And so then that opened up this whole new door of research into this guy and into the Ripper killings, and that's some fun reading. But so that's how it all happened. And I like to say that I came by it honestly. Like I didn't ask a story generator to make a random combination. Everyone's like, how did you get Medusa versus Jack the Ripper? I'm like, by doing my research and, being imaginative as well. So.
Yeah, no, I've I was talking to my grandma about the book the other day, and I was like, it's pretty much Jack the Ripper faces off against Medusa. And she's like, wow. And I'm like, yeah, thinking about it, just like off, off the whatever. It's like Medusa and Jack the Ripper. But when you actually like think about it, it's like that is the perfect pairing. So yeah, no, oh.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel that way. I describe it as like King Kong versus Godzilla in terms of like the heavyweights in the violence against women camp, right? Like Medusa was born in violence, slain in violence. She's become emblematic of the female face of violence against women. That angry, ugly, violated face, right? That face that scares men the most. What scares perpetrator men, bad men, and I'm not anti-male, whatever, but what scares the men who hurt women the most is the anger of the women coming back. It's their sins coming back to haunt them. It would be an empowered woman who was no longer afraid, who would show them the face of their crimes. That's what they would fear the most. And so that's why I say it's King Kong versus Godzilla. And I really think Jack the Ripper was a real person, but we don't know who he was. He really is more myth than a real person anyway. So it really is like two mythological enigmas, duking it out in a way that's sort of symbolic of what we all face. But I love that you were talking to Grandma about
it. So kind of going into that, because it's evident that you did a lot of research for this book, and you were able to beautifully weave the historical and true crime, suspense, fantasy, and even romance aspects in a way that seems so natural. So I loved that. Was it difficult to keep the tone steady throughout the book?
Yeah, I mean, tone is a really big deal in a story like this, especially, where Jack the Ripper's concerned, and the story does enter Jack's perspective. We get a first-person intro from Jack in his first-person voice, kind of a preface in a way, and then he becomes a third-person point of view character that we routinely hear from in his own chapters throughout the novel. And of course, that's such a different voice than Tabitha, our main protagonist, focal point character, and a very different voice from Pearl as well. And so tonally, they're going to be so different. And how do you bridge that? How do you create something that feels like a coherent narrative? But I felt like that tonal dissonance was part of the story, right? And it was really important to me to deal with this hard and grotesque material in a way that was unflinching, but also not gratuitous, not re-victimizing women, not in any way being titillated by the gross, violent sexual nature of Jack. I mean, I would never. But you just have to be careful, right, with this stuff. So yeah, to make it all come together was certainly a top concern and priority for me. But I think the answer lies in authenticity of voice. I was fortunate to stumble upon a scholar who had devoted much of his life to studying the actual life and movements of Francis Tumblety, the Rochester, New York-based Ripper suspect, who I'm making my Ripper in the story. And so I found just a wealth of information about the man's life and his eccentric ways and habits. And it turns out, kind of like today, our lives are sort of mapped on social media. Like you kind of have this I was here then and I was there then. And you've got pictures and you've got posts. Well, in the 19th century, there were local newspapers everywhere, and they would report where people went to lunch. They would, the social column would report all kinds of movements and conversations and parties that people had, barbecues, so there's actually a tremendous amount of documentary evidence of this guy's life. And so I was able to do all this research so effortlessly because of this scholar's body of work. And it made this Tumbledy figure just come to life for me, just leap off the page. And so it didn't feel hard to write him. It felt, creepy and chilling to write him, but it wasn't, he came pretty organically. And then I just loved Tabitha and Pearl so much. And I loved the sisterhood between them. They're so different. Their views on the world are so different. And they are just oil and vinegar when they start out. They cannot get along. And the process of working together to do some good and make some change in the world is what breaks down those barriers. And in that sense, I mean, I think this is a book for our time because we have such huge chasms that divide us ideologically and in terms of group identity and philosophy. And, it's an age where we feel more siloed than ever before and more philosophically fragmented than before, more partisanship, more us versus them, more labeling, more hostility. It's frightening. But if we come together despite our differences and even maybe duking out our differences in a spirit of, safety, conversation, not violence, we actually can work side by side, even with people with whom we are very different. We can work together toward a common goal. And if there's one thing that I want If Looks Could Kill to do in the world, it's to empower women to rise up and work together, arm in arm with each other, and with, all like-minded people of goodwill, to confront the climate of violence, the climate that relegates women to second-class status, the climate that is even now trying to roll back hard-fought rights, political rights, civic rights, health rights, you name it. I don't mean to become messagey. I think I can't help it.
No, you're good. So I do have to say that I loved the characters. I loved the characters from Pearl and Tabitha to Oscar. Did you have a favorite character to write?
Well, yeah, I just love them all too, like you. And I'm not trying to avoid picking a favorite. I mean, they all bring me so much joy. I love Oscar. He was such a hoot. I loved Pearl. I really loved Pearl's ability to talk about her thoughts as well as her actions. I feel like that flows pretty naturally for her. I found her super endearing, and I found her very real. And I'll be honest, Pearl started out feeling stiff and judgmental and a little one-dimensional to me. And boy, did she surprise me. I mean, she just, the more that I got to know her and spend time with her, the more that these depths appeared. And, I never know how my books are going to end. I never know how they're going to go. I just kind of throw some mud at the wall and see where it goes. But do I have a favorite character to write? I would say Jack was a very interesting artistic challenge, but it wasn't fun to write Jack. It was interesting. It was really, really interesting to write Jack. But it was really, really fun to spend time with Pearl. And I also love the little vignettes of one-off characters when they show up too. That makes it fun for me. In that sense, it's kind of like television, right? Television is free to move around between points of view, and I think of it that way.
So, outside of that, was any character specifically difficult to write?
Yeah, I mean, well, Jack, right? I mean, how do you write about someone who butchers women and considers that a reasonable choice? And I think fundamentally, we all do things that we consider reasonable. Yeah, I think people construct the narratives of their lives, their days, their actions, their motivations in ways that make their actions feel reasonable to them. And whether there's some mental illness going on nevertheless, I think people feel justified in what they do, generally speaking, or they construct a rationale that allows them to feel justified. They construct a rationale that says this person deserved what they got. And so how could I make it rational and reasonable for Jack to do what he did? And how could I make it so that the reader could believe that Jack believed it? That was the challenge. I mean, the readers will have to judge whether I succeeded in doing that. But that was the challenge there. And plus, just it's so creepy. I mean,
So the book blends historical, supernatural, suspense, romance. No, that was the question I already asked. So, Dominique, do you want to go to the next?
Oh yeah, no.
The next one.
So there's a Kirkus review that describes this book as a powerful exploration of human connection during nightmarish times. So you've kind of answered it, but the core message or themes that you want readers to take away. So I know it's like women's empowerment and facing off their predators, oppressors.
Yeah, I was so pleased with that line in that review, because I think if I had to say what I'm most proud of in this book, I feel like it is what feels to me like a great deal of authenticity between how these two girls worked out their differences and came to be friends. I felt like there was a lot of authenticity in the ways they argued and the things they argued about. There's like the whole Bechdel thing, right? Bechdel test is like, in films and whatever, girls talk to each other only about men, and that's so not the case here. And they talk to each other. The way that their differences manifest and the way that they work through them felt very real to me. And so I wasn't thinking of myself as writing a book about human connection. I was just thinking about writing about people facing certain circumstances. But it really is about that togetherness. It really is about relationships where you would put it all on the line for someone else. And I think both Pearl and Tabitha were surprised to find that they were that to each other, and that they felt that way about each other. That sisterhood and that love, that fighting it out together and trying to accomplish some good purpose together, produced in them, became like the defining relationship of their lives, at least at that time. But there's also the relationship between Tabitha and Mike. And you mentioned there is a romance, and there certainly is. I've had it's like you always learn how to talk about your book as you sort of go out into the world. And at first I was like, it's Medusa versus Jack the Ripper, and it's this and it's that, and it's also a love story. And I began to like get some funny looks from people, and I realized, oh, not between Medusa and Jack. No. So I've got to be careful how I talk about that. But yes, the way that closeness forms between Tabitha and Mike, her Irish bartender, I loved writing them together. I had a lot of fun with that.
I loved that relationship. It was so sweet. I was like giggling and kicking my feet. It was like, it's so sweet. So kind of going on that topic-ish. So, If Looks Could Kill is more than just Medusa versus Jack the Ripper. We have another path with the girls along with Mike and another friend, kind of on a rescue mission. Can you tell us a bit about that aspect of the book and your writing process with that and all the fun stuff?
Sure. So just to sketch that in a little bit, Pearl and Tabitha are in the Bowery in the late 1880s. You know, you hear about the gay 90s, and the 1888 we're already there. And the Bowery is sort of synonymous in our imagination with the rip-roaring, rowdy barroom brawls and drunken nights. But, you know, the concert saloon, dancing girls, music, and, you know, debauchery and whatever. But yet, as we look back on it in like films and books, even as we say, like, it was written with crime and vice, there's like this fond nostalgia for it. Like it was the grand old days back when you could be naughty and ha ha ha. And the reality is that that whole universe was propped up upon human sex trafficking and upon, you know, girls and women. I mean, these saloons and dance halls and theaters were all the downstairs floor of what was upstairs a brothel or a crib. And so we got to be careful that we don't sentimentalize or romanticize places where human trafficking of young female flesh is going on all around you in plain sight, not even an attempt to hide it, right? And so, okay, where was I going? So early on in the story, Pearl and Tabitha have a passing conversation with a girl who asks for directions. They give her directions. It turns out they were giving her directions to what they thought was a job, but it was entrapment in a brothel. And they see her later and realize what has happened. And they're horrified to think that they helped her find her way into a living prison. And so they decide that they're going to do something about it. They're going to fix it. They're going to find her. They're going to rescue her. And they're constantly confronted with, like, you know, all this vice, all of this exploitation is going on around them in massive numbers. And that's true of the wider social ills that they're also trying to address as Salvation Army volunteers. You know, alcoholism, poverty, abuse, you know, neglect, all that. And that constant feeling of like, what difference can we possibly make in this overwhelming sea of suffering? Is there even any point in trying? Is something that they're constantly confronting. And I think, I mean, we feel that now, right? The world is going in such strange directions and we feel so powerless. And so they find the courage and the purpose and the follow through to try to at least make a difference to one person. And along the way, this girl, we will later find her name is Cora, the one who ends up in a brothel. And in the process of trying to find and rescue Cora, they make friends with a young woman named Freda. And Freda is a budding girl journalist. And so Pearl and Tabitha and Freda become this little team trying to locate Cora and figure out a way to get her free. So Freda and Cora become crucial parts of the story, and misfortunes await them all, but also solidarity with each other and working together in this common endeavor.
So just kind of switching gears, what about you? So what is on your bedside table right now? Or what are you reading right now, if anything?
Well, I'll be honest and say not as much as I would like to be because I am scrambling to get ready for this tour. I'm going on what I am calling the Monster Tour, which seems fitting with my Medusa book. The Monster Tour has 29 stops all around the country. Yeah, so it's bananas. and that is taking a lot of my time just to prepare for that and get all my ducks in a row. So that's a lot. But I do own an independent bookstore and I lead 2 book clubs there. So I always at least have 2 book club books that I need to read each month. This month's are The One and Only Vivian Stone by Melissa O'Connor, and there's the other one, I can see it. It's called Small Town Horror, and I forget the author's name, Malfi something. So I'm reading those, and I also have been reading for a long time a book about Francis of Assisi, who is one of my heroes. Just a person who really, really lived his convictions and devoted his life to the poor. And I think that's so commendable. I am not a Catholic, but I just have always been interested in Francis of Assisi. And it's called Eager to Love by Richard Rohr. And I'm reading also a book called Trickster Makes This World. And the name is escaping me of the author. But it's another book about mythology, about trickster figures in mythical traditions. And what else? I'm my audiobook is a book. What's it called? Wait 1 second. You're gonna think I'm such a dork. It is English Literature in the 16th Century by C.S. Lewis. It was his scholarly work as an Oxford Don, and it's really fascinating. I'm learning so much. So kind of all over the map, all over the map. But, I mean, I also just like read a cozy murder mystery. I just, different reading needs, different reading moods,
Yep, I get that. Dominique, I'll let you take the next one too.
Okay. And so when it comes to writing, do you have a routine? We've had someone say like they locked themselves away basically for a month and was just writing, or I know some people like to, write in the dark and just have like a mood set or whatever. Do you have like a writing ritual or routine?
Do I have a writing routine? No, I don't. Very little in my life is routine and structure. I wish I admire people who like can make plans and carry out plans and be like organized like that. I'm always striving to like have more regular habits, regular bedtime, regular get up time, regular exercise time, regular, shower, regular work time. I feel like for me, the way I describe my writing life is like, it's like being an adult who has a job and goes to school, or has kids and a job and goes to school. And you always say like, have you ever known anyone like that? Sure, everybody's known someone like that. And I said, well, how did they get their schoolwork done? Well, they just got it done somehow. They worked in the nights, they worked in the weekends, they fit it in around the cracks. They just got it done by hook or by crook. And I feel like that's how writing works for me. My job, I own a bookstore, but also like there's a great deal of job associated with being an actively promoting author. So a lot of my daytime, especially now with the tour coming up, is devoted to like the business of being Julie Berry author, and when to actually be the writer part of Julie Berry author is always a struggle, and it remains a struggle even though I'm a full-time writer now. And so you just like have to fit it in somehow, and you just have to prioritize it somehow. And that's kind of how I operate. I have, a massive to-do list. It's very easy to feel like, that email you need to answer is somehow more important than that book you need to write because there's a person on the other end of the email. And it's hard. Sometimes you have to make yourself just go into a cave and write. But no, I've never been structured or scheduled. I tell myself it's part of being a creative person, but it might just be part of being a goofball. I don't know.
So overall, can you tell us more about the bookstore and your bookstore journey and just what you want, everybody to know about you?
Sure. Well, I live today in the small town where I was born and raised, Medina, New York, and I hadn't lived here for 30 years. I left after high school and hadn't ever returned. I'd like visited, but I hadn't ever lived here since high school because my parents moved just before I graduated to another place. But I live here now because during COVID, the independent bookstore in this town came on the real estate market, and my husband and I bought it, and we moved back and renovated it and reopened it as Author's Note. So that was like, I don't even know if I can say it was like a lifelong dream, but it was kind of like more like a pet idea, like I don't think I had an actual plan to buy a bookstore. I just thought it would be cool. And then when one came up for sale in my hometown, I thought, oh boy, like here's an opportunity. There's kind of a story here, right? Like I'm a hometown author, and I came back and bought the bookstore. Afterwards, I was telling a friend what, soon after we'd bought it, and she's like, "You are living the plot of every Hallmark Christmas movie ever written." Like, oh, you're kind of right. Except that instead of falling in love with the hunky contractor who renovated my bookstore, I was already married to the hunky contractor who renovated my
how
bookstore.
cute.
I brought him with me. But like, what else to know about me? I am the youngest of 7 children. I grew up on a farm in this little town. So a small town girl, played volleyball in high school, the one true sport, very big into volleyball. Played a lot of ping pong. Like, spent a lot of my adolescence playing ping pong and reading, and I still love ping pong to this day. I have 4 boys. I'm a mom of 4 kids. That's pretty great. They're all grown and gone now. That's also pretty great. But I love it when they visit. And what else to know about me? I love to garden. I have a little garden out in my front, like where normal people would plant flowers. I have squashes and tomatoes growing right out in front of my house. So that way I see them each day and I remember to water them. If they were in the backyard, I would not remember to water them.
Yeah.
I play piano, like a decent intermediate amateur. I play in church. I play the organ for church. I lead the choir at church. I love yoga. I love running. I love to cook. I love to eat. I always say I'm a pretty good writer, but I'm amazing at making pie. So that's my true talent, is making
pie. So do you have any more questions? So, last question. Can you tell our listeners where they can keep up to date on what's going on with you?
Sure. Yes. So my handle on just about every social platform is Julie Berry Books. So that's where you can find me on Instagram, Blue Sky. Facebook is the one place where it's Julie Berry Books page. So that's the one thing that's different. Pinterest, TikTok. I'm not posting much on X anymore, but that is my handle there as well. Let's see. My website is also julieberrybooks.com. And I definitely also recommend checking out Author's Note. Author's Note Bookstore is the handle, because that's a lot of where my commotion takes place as well. But Julie Berry Books is pretty much how you find me.
And I just remembered, I wanted to ask you, how did you come up with the name Author's Note?
That was actually my husband's idea. We were talking forever when we were, planning to buy the bookstore. We had, pages and pages of brainstormed bookstore names. And the problem is that, like, all the cool, clever, obvious, literary, like, little sayings, they've all been taken. Like, they've so been taken. Like, there are great names for a bookstore that we thought of, but we couldn't use them. So then you start really kind of like reaching for things. And my books tend to have my historical novels especially tend to have kind of hefty historical author's notes. So since I'm sort of known for long author's notes, my husband said, what about Author's Note as a name for your store? And I should backtrack that by saying he is such a sweetheart, and he loves me. And he said, the bookstore should have your name, and it should have you in its name, like something, a Julie Berry bookstore. And I was like, over my dead body. Like, I'm not Wolfgang Puck. I'm not like some famous celebrity chef or whatever, like, no way, Jose. But he kind of kept saying, like, it needs to have some of you in the name. And then he said Author's Note, and I went, okay, that's perfect. Because I am a hometown author girl who came back and bought the bookstore, and I do write these long author's notes in my books, but in a deeper way, I say that, every book is an author's note to the world. And at Author's Note, because I am an author, we're very much about connecting authors and readers. So having author events, bringing authors in, leveraging some of those connections that I have from years in the publishing industry to help my bookstore, attract more authors and so forth. So growing up in this town, I never met an author, not once, not until college did I meet an author in person and shake their hand. And now, we've got multiple authors coming in each school year and regularly doing events in the schools. And there are now several published authors from this town. And I love that these little farm kids growing up have every reason to think that if they want to be, creative professionals when they grow up, they can be, because plenty of people from this town have done it. Kate Messner is also from my hometown of Medina, New York, interestingly enough. As a kid, I never thought that I could be an author because I was from a small farming town, and that doesn't happen. I believed that people from fabulous cities who went to fabulous universities and were the children of diplomats or something, they were the people who could be authors, not little Julie from Medina. So I love that our presence and the presence of other bookstores like it all around the country are creating those opportunities for young people to see themselves in creative futures and to see that books are made by normal people just like them. So that gives me a glow.
I love that. I love that. And Dominique, you don't need to add in my next part. I'm just chatting now. But yeah, so that was kind of similar, author. So not author name, but bookstore name. My bookstore is Ink Drinkers Anonymous. And same issue. I wanted a cute, literary name, but I'm all of them are taken. So I was like, well, I'm just gonna go with One More Chapter, I guess. I think it has a little ring to it, whatever. And I was chatting with my mom, and I'm like, yeah, I can imagine us having a book club, and it'd be dimly lit, and the book club be called Ink Drinkers Anonymous or something. And my mom was like, no, that's the name. That's the name of the bookstore. And I'm like, you think? And she's like, yes. So that's how I came up with the name.
I love it. We need our people, right? We need our family and friends to kind of be the mirror back to us and tell us when we're onto something good, because we are so quick to talk ourselves out of our own ideas.
Yeah,
we're so quick to tell ourselves that we can't pull it off, or that it's not good enough, or that it might be good but we can't make it a success. And so thank goodness for my husband is the reason that I'm able to do any of what I do, because he's been so encouraging from the moment I first voiced the thought that I'd like to try writing books. He's just been 100% pushing that along, really having more confidence in it than I did at any point in time. And his belief in me has helped me to do things I never thought possible. So I'm so, so, so lucky. And I always say, my husband Phil is the romantic male lead in every book I write. Just, the slightly different aspect of his personality on the page. But he has really shown me what a truly loving relationship looks like. And I am so not interested in putting books out there that have dangerous guys for girls to fall in love with. I am not even ugh. So yeah, I'm really, really lucky, like your mom, to have somebody in your corner like that. That's awesome.
I love that.
Well, I want to come to Muncie and see your store. I
Yeah,
always want
you
to see other
definitely should.
Well, let's make it happen.
Yeah, I'll have to come visit yours too.
Please do. Please do.
For sure. My younger sister and I, well, I say younger, she's 3 years younger than me, but we have a pact where we plan on visiting all 50 states before we turn 40. So yeah, we'll have to make it over that way, or Dominique and I will make a trip or something.
I love it. Let me know you're coming, and we'll make a plan. We're not that far from Niagara Falls, so if you're in the vicinity of Niagara Falls, you're pretty close. So
I haven't been there yet, so I need to go.
Neither have I.
You got to see it. You got to see Niagara Falls. Like you can't. No picture can do it justice. So you got to see it.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely let you know when I plan on coming and visiting, and you do the same.
Absolutely, absolutely. Muncie, Indiana. You're probably not really that far. I mean, you're probably like a day's drive, but not, not like
No,
not impossible.
more
So
than a day. We're like
you
an
do a
hour
bookstore.
north of Indianapolis.
Yeah,
South
No,
yeah,
we're
not
north.
too bad.
of Indy?
Yes.
Oh, we are, aren't we? Directionally challenged over here. Yeah, we're what, 30 minutes from the Ohio border,
Yeah.
if that.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, you're within reach for sure. Okay, let's make this happen.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for doing this with us. This was such a pleasure. It's so exciting. Oh, you
Oh,
didn't tell her that it was meant to be.
Oh, yes. So I was on Edelweiss or NetGalley. I can't remember which one I was on. And I was looking through ARCs to download, and I saw If Looks Could Kill. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this sounds great. I got like 2 sentences into the description, and I was like, this sounds amazing. I'm going to download it. And then maybe 5, 6 days later, Dominique messages me, and she's like, we got an email about reading this book and doing an interview with the author, and I look and it's you. And I'm like, that is crazy. And then last week I found out that I won a giveaway for a physical copy of the book, and I'm like, it was meant to be. It was meant to be.
we're coming for you. Medusa is coming for you, but in a good way.
Yeah, so I was like, that it's a sign that we had to do this. So
Absolutely, absolutely, awesome. Well, thank you so much for inviting me here. This was fantastic. I love chatting
yeah.
with you both, and let's do it again.
Thank
Yes.
you. lot going on. Like, I don't dislike the brothel part. I think it's relevant, but also I think we could have not had it too, and the story would have been fine. So I didn't like expect all of that. Yeah. I get it. Like after talking to Julie, like where all of her thoughts and why that all comes together. But I really didn't expect much with that. I really didn't know what, because I'm like, how does Medusa team up with Jack the Ripper? Like, I don't know how that's gonna like come about. But no, like I didn't really have any pre-expedition or expectations or like thoughts on where that was gonna go.
Yeah, I don't know necessarily that I really had anything. I just saw Medusa and versus Jack the Ripper, and I was like, oh yeah, that sounds good to me.
Yep.
So I didn't really read much past that, honestly. I was pleasantly surprised with where the book went.
Yeah.
I started out not a fan of Pearl at all. And at the end, I definitely felt more for Pearl. I liked Pearl at the end, but Tabitha just definitely, she carried the book.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I loved her romance with Mike, and it wasn't like this big, like sweeping romance, but it was just, I don't know, subtle. Like she didn't get that he was so into her, and just throughout time, just even with a little picking away at the, oh yeah, saying cute little things, trying to, and then finally it was like, oh,
he does like me.
So cute.
Yeah, I like that. Pearl, I think, is an interesting character too. Like I said, I did not like Pearl, and then I was kind of neutral on her. But like I do feel for her. Like she basically does kind of go through a religious crisis because obviously, like I don't think that she was vain prior to.
No.
But it's almost like becoming a Medusa did make her vain a little bit because she did not want to look like that, and even Tabitha did not want her to have to look like that. And they don't look like it all the time. Like it goes and it comes and goes. But which is interesting. I was wondering if they were gonna say because Stellas are always snakes.
She chooses to have them.
Oh, I missed that part then.
Because she said that they're fuller, and the snakes are fuller and prettier than her hair. Her real hair is like thin and.
Okay.
Yeah.
I cannot. I don't. I would be so sick.
Your irrational fear?
I don't think snakes are an irrational fear. But yeah, no, like I just think it sounds bad, but like I do think Pearl needed like humbling in a way. And I like that at the end. Like they are genuinely friends.
Yeah.
I don't think that either of them really gave each other a chance, but I think Tabitha had given Pearl more of a chance in the beginning than Pearl, which is like so hypocritical, which is funny because I like people. That's the argument a lot of people have about like very religious people all the time is that they're hypocritical in that way, and it's like you're like so worried about like saving and doing all these other people, but like you mistreat Tabitha all the time. And I get like she's not as serious as you, but you don't have to all be the same. So I do like that arc for Pearl.
Yeah. Was there any character that may have fallen flat, you think, or that you feel could have had a little more character development?
I mean, like I said, I didn't really like how things ended with Freda and Cora. I guess, so at the end of the book, they kind of patch up a little bit. They write like a whole like expose on what happened to them and they publish it and all of that. But I just like, I don't know. Like I don't know. Like I feel like we never really got much from Cora anyways. And then we started to get stuff from Freda and then it just kind of, yeah.
I agree.
Just kind of fell flat with them. So,
let's see. How are we on, or what are we on time?
I don't really know because I have a couple things on here, but we're just at an hour with like the other stuff I have in here, so we're probably at like 40 minutes.
Okay. Let's see. Let's do another question. What was your favorite scene?
I don't know. I kind of like the stuff at Stella's. Like Both of them, actually. I like when
Yeah.
the like guys come in, but I also like when Tabitha goes back because she was just nuts, and I'm like, whoa, hold on, lady. I don't know. I like Stella like as a side gray character.
Mine was after the fight between Pearl, Medusa, and Jack when Oscar, one of the favorite boys, who is probably one of my favorite surprise characters, like super side, mentioned maybe 3 times in the character, when he and his buddies came and saved Pearl and realized who she was and put Pearl on the bike as they're trying to ride her to the hospital. But yeah, no, I liked that scene. I think there were a lot of scenes that were really great. The scene when Pearl went to visit something Leone or
Oh, I do like the at the Lion's Den.
Yeah. The
Giovanni.
Yes. Which he was a freaking piece of work. I liked that scene too. But yeah.
Yeah. I like the siren part of the Medusas since they don't always look like Medusas. There's like a couple scenes of that one, and then there's a train scene where the guys are disgusting. Of course, they're looking at Pearl like they want to be with her. They want her for her beauty and all that stuff. And when she realizes that, she uses it to her advantage and like lures them in and then like gets them to look at her.
Yeah.
Like in that moment, they think they're like about to get a kiss or whatever, and then she's like, "Yeah, no,
Look at
me." Yeah, no. So I do like those. I just yeah.
So as far as ratings go, I rated this a big 5 out of 5. Where's my notes? I rated it a big 5 out of 5 petrified men. What about you?
That's hilarious. A 4 out of 5. The only thing that I didn't like I feel like it took me a bit to like get into it. Where and I do like, even though I like all the parts, like I said, I feel like there's some stuff we could have done without. So that kind of like took me a bit to like get in the groove of it. I really like the second half of the book a lot. I enjoy most of the characters and everything about it, and the ease of the book though. So still 4. What was it? Petrified Men.
Yeah. I do. It did start out kind of a little slow. It was very character driven starting out. A lot of just kind of. It took a while for the story,
the action to
really get started. But once it did, the pacing was great.
Yeah.
And everything. It was great. But yeah.
Nope, I agree. Can you find reviews on ARCs? I guess if you get on NetGalley, or no. Also, I should probably get on there and say I read this book before NetGalley dings me. I know they like to do that.
And while I look this up, what was one of the other questions? Would you recommend this book?
Oh yeah, I think anyone can really read it. Like I think teens can read it, up to adults, whatever. So yeah, I think it's fun. I think it's an easy read. So yeah, I would recommend it.
All right. So a current 5-star review. I loved it. Gripping, funny, and painlessly educational. This novel has so much going for it. Beyond the exhilarating action scenes, I really appreciated the moral dilemmas Tabitha faces as she tries to do the right thing, even while questioning the point of it all. Her inner dialogue is heartfelt and refreshingly honest, capturing a mix of jaded skepticism and stubborn idealism that readers of all ages will appreciate. The Bowery setting in New York is also brilliantly researched and vividly brought to life, which I do agree. Julie Berry did her research, and she did it well. I don't feel like there really was any plot holes or just, and that's on the writing aspect of it, but like you can tell that she has researched it very well.
Yeah, she did a really good job.
There currently are no 1-star reviews, so I'm going to go to the only 2-star review. I love the concept and themes in this book. It shows historical issues and tensions within the narrative. The book blends mythology with a bit of history. What I didn't like was the writing. It felt like I was a distance away from the characters. The pacing also felt wonky and often very slow. I couldn't get into this one, and I really wanted to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not bad. Not bad. Okay. Anything else about Looks Could Kill?
Not about Looks Could Kill, but I think that something that we could do is pitch the next book.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's reading the blurb or just kind of giving I don't know, like genre, a little like 1 or 2 sentence, like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. Oh, Witchcraft. Wait. So I'm like, what is the next book? Let's see. Witchcraft for workers. Okay. All right. So next week we will be reading one of our favorite authors.
Yes.
This is his newest book released this year, right?
Yes.
Yeah. It is Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. We really enjoyed meeting him, and he's great. This book was published in January of 2025. It is...
Oh, yeah, 25.
Oh,
sorry.
nope. Okay. Yeah, I'm reading. I'm not going off the top of my head.
I was looking up the thing, and the paperback comes out the same time.
Oh. And it is considered a horror novel. What do I want to say? What do you want to say about it?
I could read the blurb, or I could just give
Yeah, you can read the blurb.
or like a 2 quick little,
A snippet.
yeah. Here, let me pull up my thing, because I can just do a little snippet of my review. Do a little, hot point. So Witchcraft for Wayward Girls is equal parts dark, empowering, and widely compelling. A story about girls who refuse to stay powerless in a world that sees them as the opposite.
You know, I didn't realize these kind of go together.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about it until you said that. I was like, oh, this was a theme.
Yeah.
I wasn't even paying attention, but it is. Yeah, no. So we both already read this, even though we haven't recorded yet, and we both enjoyed it. So I'm excited to discuss it. Anything else before we end today?
I think that's about it.
Okay, so as always, make sure you're following us on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, and YouTube, because I post over there too, at Booktrospective or Booktrospective Podcast on the platforms. Close enough. I think if you put Booktrospective in, we're the only one.
Yeah.
So, and then we will be back next Monday with our next episode, and I think that is it.